Greetings. This is Mushtaq Memon, Professor Emeritus from Washington State University. This is our third video on horses. The last video was focused more on mare reproduction. And on this video, we are going to talk more about mare reproductive physiology and endocrinology, essential concepts and science behind successful breeding. So in last video, we discussed about the mare is a seasonally polyestrous. And we also talked about when a mare cycle, and which is the spring and summertime in our climate here in the United States, where we have long days and short nights. Now, the estrous cycle is really from one ovulation to the other. And if we look at a little more closely, so the estrous cycle during breeding season could be 21 to 22 days, but it could vary, between 18 to 24 days. Now the estrus is fairly long, 4 to 7 days during breeding season, because that's important that we keep that thing in mind. So this estrus or heat is during the time when we have follicle on the ovary, which produces estrogen hormone. Now, the diestrus is the after ovulation between two estrus or two ovulation when we have corpus luteum on the ovary. So this is kind of oversimplified picture, but I think it makes a nice point here that how photoperiod light is influencing the seasonality and the cyclicity. You can see here we have positive signs and negative signs, and this is really what you call positive and negative feedback system, which hormones play to control release from pituitary and hypothalamus glands. So as you can see, the photoperiod comes through the eye, and then from there it goes to the pineal gland, which produces melatonin hormone, very important hormone to control that cyclicity, seasonality. And then melatonin influences hypothalamus to release gonadotropin releasing hormone, which influences again pituitary gland to release follicle stimulating hormone or FSH and LH. So those two hormones then go on to the ovary to influence so that it could start cyclicity. So really, this is, it has to have that connection between all these areas of the hormones to make this animal, cycle. Now, other way looking at this is a very nice picture here. You can see here that we have a pituitary gland on the top, and on top of that is written gonadotropin releasing hormone or GnRH, and it's supposed to be hypothalamus on top of that. So that GnRH comes to pituitary gland, already I did mention. So here I think it's shown pretty nicely on the right hand side. You have positive and negative feedback system, and the left is in a similar way. But on the left side, you have the ovary with a follicle on. So that's the ovary which has follicle producing estrogen, whereas the right hand side has a corpus luteum on the ovary produces progesterone. So when you've got a few minutes, try to look at that, how this whole thing works. Now, so as you can see down there, it's also written prostaglandin F2 alpha or PGF2 alpha. That's the hormone secreted from the endometrium part of the uterus, which has a negative feedback to lysis corpus luteum. So we'll talk a little more about it in a second here. So this is the other way of looking at it. Now, as you can see on this graph, on the horizontal axis, you have got two estrus times, and then on the vertical axis, you have FSH and LH hormones. So here, as you can see, during estrus time, we have a fairly high estradiol or estrogen hormone. And then in the middle, when you've got diestrus, you have almost, very low estrogen hormone because we have progesterone at that time. On the top, you see the pictures, and as you can see, that the red color between them is the follicle, and then the last one is a follicle is about ovulate. Now, if we take that and put it on diestrus, so you see this is a diestrus time where we have corpus luteum, which is producing progesterone. And as you can see towards this, before the estrus in the second one, you see a peak of PGF2 alpha. And this is what I mentioned briefly earlier. And this is where the lysis of the corpus luteum happens. So what we are talking about, if the mare came in estrus and did not get bred, or did get breed but did not get pregnant, that corpus luteum is going to be lysed with the help of prostaglandin F2 alpha produced from endometrium to tell the ovary that, okay, I'm not pregnant, please go ahead and start again coming in heat. So getting a little more close to how we can figure it out, all these things, as I mentioned before too, the ultrasonography is excellent too for breeding purposes also. As you can see here, when we talk about the estrus or the heat between 5 to 7 days, and then the follicle when it ovulates is also very large. As you can see here, 40 to 50 millimeter in size when follicles ovulate. And it's also very interesting to see, with a lot of research and follow-up work tell us that the mare follicle grows about 3 millimeters a day during breeding season. So how we are going to breed these mares? Well, first of all, we have to find out, if mare is an estrus. So you can see here the mare, the brown color here, it's showing that her tail is raised because she is being teased by the stallion. The stallion's the other side, and there's a solid barrier between them. That's very important when you try to tease mares. That otherwise, these animals are pretty powerful. They want to, stallion may jump and try to breed the mare, and they may get injured. So we want to make sure that this animal is in estrus by looking at the different ways. Like this mare, as I recall, was squatting, urinating, and everting her clitoris, which tell us good signs that mare is now breedable. Now, this reverse. When mare is not in estrus, so you can see in this picture, this mare is probably in diestrus, and we try to, tease her, and you can see her ears are laid back. She is upset. She's trying to kick everything which is close to her. So this really tells you this mare is not in estrus. There are other ways too that you could use this technique. Like your left-hand side, you see the solid barrier, and the gray mare is inside the stalks, and the stallion is being outside teasing this mare. This happened to be a different exercise. We were getting ready to collect semen from this stallion, so we needed to tease him so that he has erection, so we can apply the artificial vagina and collect semen from him. But on the right-hand side, you see you have a stallion who is trying to tease the mare, which is on the other side of the fence of this, area here. And you may, if you look closely, you will see the curl of the upper lip curl on this stallion, which is the what you call Memon reaction. Now, when it comes to the breeding techniques, I think hand breeding is one of those that where you bring the stallion, breed the mare, and take a stallion back. Now, the advantages are very efficient, but the disadvantage could be that you really do not have a good way to detect heat. And you could breed this mare in early estrus because she will be in heat anyway, or you could have too many breedings because whenever you bring her, you remember we talked about 5 to 7 days estrus time. So it may be too many breeding, which may cause some kind of inflammation of the lining of the endometrium or endometritis. The other simplest way, which some people do, to leave mare and the stallion alone in the pasture. Well, it's a fairly labor-saving thing, pretty inexpensive. The problem is that it could be a danger to a stallion and mare. As I mentioned earlier, a stallion tried to jump on the mare, which she may not be in proper time to be bred. So she may start kicking, so this could be a very uncomfortable situation. And then breeding date, obviously, you wouldn't know when she was bred. The other way is to involve veterinarians who can come in and try to do ultrasound and breed the mare exactly at the time when she is ready to ovulate. We have all these criteria. We talked about size of the follicle, how it looks like on the ultrasound, and I think once you get good at that, you may be able to feel the consistency of this follicle by palpation per rectum. So I think this is another way to, have an efficient system for breeding. Now, in some situations, like in thoroughbred breed of horses, they do not allow artificial insemination. If you want to register their foals, they have to be born from the mare which was bred by natural means, with a stallion. So in that case, we have no choice now, but do this breeding by hand breeding. Now, with all this, I'm going to stop with this, and let me know if you've got any questions or comments that I'll be more than happy to entertain those. Until then, I wish you well. Bye-bye.